Welcome to Men's Anonymous, the podcast where men can be vulnerable and open without fear of judgment. Your host, Daniel Weinberg, leads authentic and unfiltered discussions that explore the challenges and triumphs of modern manhood. Join us as we break down barriers, challenge stereotypes, and redefine masculinity. Men's Anonymous, a safe space for men to lower their shields and share their inner world without judgment.
Hi. On this week's Men's Anonymous, we talk to Tim Bowles from IceBreakers in the UK. We'll go deep on what actually happens in men's groups and why it has so much value and impact on men. Men's Anonymous.
Welcome, Tim. How are ya?
Hey, Daniel. I'm great, thanks. How are you?
Good, man. So where are you right now?
I'm at home on the family farm, and we're just outside of Bath in England, in the West Country.
You're a country boy.
Yeah, born and bred on the farm, so I'm fifth generation. Though farming wasn't cool or exciting enough for me when I left school, so I headed off on adventures elsewhere. But I returned to the farm eventually, and it feels like home. And
How long did you leave the farm for?
Well, I went off to university in Newcastle, and then I went off to London for a year, worked in advertising. Then I went off to Hong Kong for a few years, worked in wine over there, actually, as a wine merchant. And that was, it was such an adventure. And I've always loved traveling, meeting new people, getting outside. I felt quite drawn back to the country eventually. And Hong Kong's got beautiful country landscapes.
What years were you in Hong Kong?
That was 2010 to 2013.
Oh, I just missed you. I moved there in 15.
Oh, yeah. So it was, things were starting to change.
Good years. You had good years, yeah.
But awesome place, and a lot of love for the people, for my friends out there. Had some great times. Yeah, really special.
So you came back to the farm post Hong Kong, so you're saying?
Yeah, after Hong Kong, I had this mad dream that I wanted to move back and set up a campsite or a glamping thing, but with a real sort of wildness to it. And it was quite a contrast, going from the concrete jungle to back to the farm and to the land. But there's something about it that really appealed, being, the creator of my own destiny, and giving people experiences out in nature on our farm, being close to Bath. We've got beautiful valleys and rivers and nature on the doorstep. So I wanted to connect people with that, I think. And that was, 10 years ago now.
And that's still going? It's still going concern?
Yeah, so that's my main business. So that's called Campwell. And we started with just 3 tents, and now we've got 2 sites both near Bath, and we can take up to, I think, 60 odd people in total. It's a lot of retreats, a lot of groups, families. We get corporate teams.
And what do you do? What's the schedule when you're there?
Well, it can be pretty unique to the needs of the group, and we're off grid, so we really celebrate that sort of offline feel in our modern lives. It's quite precious to have that quality time around the campfire with loved ones, or with people that you spend a lot of time with, or maybe a lot of Teams calls with, or whatever it might be, just to get people slowing down, switching off around the fire. And it's amazing how people open up if you give them that space to do so. And, boiling a kettle over a rocket stove, you're just so much more mindful and present, and things just flow better outside, I find.
Connected to nature in general.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's now it's all science backed now, and we always knew it. The wisdom was always there, but it feels like a lot in the modern world, they need the science to have backup and reassurance that, yeah, it's a real thing. Nature's really good for us.
Absolutely. And that led you to IceBreakers. Is that correct?
Yeah. So we basically created a day. It was in October 2020. And it was inspired by myself and a friend, Aaron, who's a Qigong and well-being practitioner. We held retreats together at the camps, and we noticed it was mostly women that were coming to them. And, nothing against women, but they're very natural at connecting and looking after themselves. And we felt that we needed to create a space for men. And it was inspired also by losing a friend to suicide in Hong Kong.
Oh.
And Aaron and I lost a mutual friend who was sort of a family friend. And we felt that we really wanted to do something about it. And around that time, I actually knew 8 men over 8 years that took their life.
Shocking.
Oh, it was horrible. And at the time, I've had my own mental health struggles with anxiety, and feeling how crippling that can be and suffocating, and just it really inhibits your enjoyment of life. I was on my own journey to recover and enjoy life more, and fortunately I've found the tools over the years to manage that. But I also wanted to share that with other men that I knew that were suffering in silence.
How did you find the tools originally when you're going through that? Because when you're going through that, you're so debilitated. It's really hard to even have the inner strength to find the energy to even think straight. You know what I mean? So what was your journey in terms of how you took yourself out of it?
Yeah, I guess it was the conditioning that a lot of us men have had, is that we're brought up in a world where, you toughen up, you don't show your emotions. And I played a lot of rugby, drank too much, had a lot of fun. But eventually, when the reality of life and responsibilities and everything came about in my sort of 20s, I think it was, I felt this pressure and anxiety building up. I didn't even really have a language for what I was going through. That emotional vocabulary was completely lacking.
Were you able to express it or share it with other men around you, or you kept it really to yourself?
In the early days, I really kept it to myself, and it really didn't help, obviously. But I can remember having sleep issues, and that can just drive you mad.
I had a 6-month period where I could not sleep.
Oh, it's brutal. And, waking up in the witching hour, they call it, 3 or 4 in the morning, and it's part of your brain, I think, that is switched on. It's just not rational. And all the fears subconsciously rise up. Sometimes I wake up, if I'm going through work stress or whatever, my heart's thumping, and all these fears feel so real.
You're talking about the chatter in your head now.
The chatter in your head, that itty bitty shitty committee.
Yes.
Which is ultimately what I'm on a mission to quiet, eradicate, and particularly for men, because we do get stuck in our heads. And if we're not expressing it, like you're talking about, that can be dangerous or really unhealthy. And for me, I can remember through just being in a pretty desperate place, not sleeping well. It was just starting up the camp, actually. I had a bit of stress in Hong Kong, but nothing like when I started my own business. And I can remember trying all these different things. Exercise has always been a big thing for me. I can remember trying breath work and meditation at the Headspace app, I think it was.
Yeah.
And I was rigidly doing 15 minutes a day. And slowly I felt this tension just dissolve a little bit. And it was magic. My patience started growing. My positivity, my enjoyment of life just slowly improved a little bit. I can't pretend it was all, perfect.
It happens in a very iterative process. It's not like a take a pill, boom, I'm better. It's like you're doing
Exactly.
that on a very disciplined basis, on a daily basis, and just the discipline of doing that activity. Even forget about what it can actually do for you. Just the discipline of it is already rewiring your brain effectively. So it's taking you out of that zone that you're in. So all these things, just the base, I think, value is that just that discipline. It could be journaling, for example. Like I started doing that 5-minute journaling story, okay, which has been going for a long time. And it's just that discipline of doing those things. It starts changing the way what you think and what you manifest and etc. So
Absolutely. And we shouldn't underestimate the power of these tools. And they're becoming more mainstream now, which is fantastic. But that act of self-care and the ritual of that,
Yep.
you use the word routine routine, ritual, you can make it as deep as you like, but ultimately we've got to be looking after ourselves because life's, it can be intense. So to process it, it's finding a toolbox, I guess. So whether it's journaling, breath work, qigong.
So what was it? So what was your toolkit?
Well, at that time it was this Headspace app, which is around mindfulness, meditation. And I've come back round to meditation now, and it's a huge help to me. Every day I practice, and I think it just shifts the energy so that my subconscious mind is calmed. And in my childhood, I had my family broke up, and I think there's part of me there that was insecure and unsettled by that, and then that shows up in my adult life.
What age were you there that happened?
I think I was around 4 or 5, so it was formative years.
You remember? You remember much of it?
I have some memories, yeah, and none were particularly special around that time, but I also have beautiful memories being on the farm. But feeling that family dissolve, I think that can create an insecurity subconsciously that's then shown up in my adult life as worry around business or relationships or whatever. So it's taken till now for me to understand that experience when I was young is probably the cause of some of these struggles. And just to acknowledge that has been really powerful for me, and to be kind to myself, and to understand myself better, I guess. But that's 10 years ago now that I've been on that journey doing the inner work, which just sounded like utter woo-woo nonsense. But back in the day, to me, I just thought even yoga, it was a bit weird, wasn't it? Whereas now it's that everyone's doing it, and it's so normalized, which is so important. And this is the thing. Over the years, I actually went to a yoga. When I came back from Hong Kong, I did an intensive yoga course with a mate who was an old rugby mate. It's brilliant that this is all normalized again. Yeah, because men need this stuff. We're emotional creatures too, and we need to shift that energy, that blocked energy. They say emotion is energy in motion. So if we let it flow, then things heal, they pass. And if we don't process them, then you get blockages, and that can then show up as anger or sadness or depression. And it's really important to feel the feeling and then let it go somehow. And all these tools that we've touched on, they are really important for men particularly. They need that toolkit either given to them, test this out for size,
which is effectively what you've done with IceBreakers. So you've gone, here you go, this is your idea of how you can bring men together and give them some of that toolkit. So why don't you walk us through the structure of IceBreakers and what inspired you or motivated you to create this?
Yeah. Okay. Well, when going back to the October 2020 date, we called it a Mankind Day, and It was a day just for men to come together, and we brought a few features into that day that we felt would be the most impactful with the time that we had, and just get a feel for this space, for a men only space. And Aaron led breath work and some movement that's Qigong inspired. He's a Qigong instructor. And then we sat around the campfire at Campwell, and we just shared where we're at, where we are on our journey.
How many men are we talking about?
I think it was maybe 16, something like that, 16 to 20. And
what gave these men the, let's say, the courage, or just to open up in front of a whole lot of other men? Like, that's not natural for men to do that.
Yeah, well, really good point. And actually, I can remember that fire circle, and it's a really vulnerable place. You're right. And for a lot of men, that's too much. And what you need is someone.
Can you explain how it works? Like, who leads it? Like, what's actually happening? You're around the fireplace, and who's driving the?
Yeah, so you'd have a facilitator or a host, which is something that I enjoy doing myself. And what you do is you can set the scene. You say, this is, we can be ceremonial with it as well. We have an ashes ritual, actually, which connects all our campfires, things like that. And then we bring in the importance of talking openly and honestly, and sharing where you're at in life, what's challenging you, what's flowing, but also trying not to give too many parameters and boundaries in place, because
you want to allow people to speak freely and what they're feeling, and what's going on with them, without giving them too much of a guardrail situation.
Exactly. And then there's the concept of the talking stick. I don't know if you've heard of that one. It's basically
explain everything.
Yeah, so a talking stick, whilst we don't actually use a stick, it's just around the importance of listening.
So whoever's got the stick is the one that speaks. Everyone else must be silent and really actively listening.
Exactly. And that gives men the opportunity to talk more openly and honestly. And by not being interrupted, which, it's very easy as men to do that and share their story and hijack and so on, it then allows more to open up.
What's the rules of engagement then? See, the person who's got the man who's got the stick, he's doing the talking. Let's say he's going to say, I'm having a really tough time now. My child in school is, really playing out. Whatever it is the idea to be for people to ask questions, or is it for people to say, oh, that something that resonates with me, I'd like to talk about something similar that's happened to me? Or is it, because it's not really it's not, I want to make clear to the audience, it's not really speak because everyone can go and give you advice, which is what everyone really wants to jump in and say, oh, I've got an idea of what you can do. It's not about that. It's really about allowing the man to talk, and
does it
for him just to be heard.
Exactly, because often, particularly with men, we can have these thoughts and ideas and emotions just within us, and we don't let them out. So just to get stuff off your chest, it's like a form of therapy. It's a talking therapy, and you can say what you like. There's no judgment, and just by creating that space, things can come out that they might not have even thought about.
So why don't you describe that October 20 scene of 16 men? How did that play out?
Yeah, well, some groups sometimes take a little bit of opening up. You have to feel into the dynamic of the group and where they're at on their journey, because some men have done some inner work already. Others are bricking it, just turning up, and we experience that now. And I totally get it. It takes great courage to step into this sort of space. But what it takes often is one person just to be vulnerable and to share, actually, yeah, I'm going through hell right now, or I'm experiencing this and I feel like this. And as you say, whilst we don't interrupt people or try and fix them, this is the important thing. We shouldn't be giving advice unless we're invited to or asked to. So it's a space just to listen non-judgmentally. And by doing that, you can feel like a pressure easing. The group naturally becomes more connected. And all of a sudden you get comments like, wow, I feel like I know you guys and I'm more connected with you than some of my best friends who I've known all my life.
Wow.
But I wear masks on, I put my mask on with them. So, and we can get that within a couple of fire sharing circles and a camp weekend, the shifts that you can see in people and the laughter, the tears, the letting out of this stuck energy, this good medicine.
So then you created IceBreakers.
Yeah. So off the back of that day, we had a number of other features, but we walked down into the valley here, which is beautiful, and we went for a dip in the river. So I'm sure you and your audience are very familiar with the benefits of cold water, and that was 2020, so 5 years ago, and that was when Wim Hof was just quite an extreme athlete, sort of walking in his underpants through the snow in the mountains. And I can remember seeing that and being like, there's something about that really appeals, that discomfort zone thing. And anyway, I'd always enjoyed swimming in the river as a kid and being by campfires, funnily enough. Yeah, the cold water, there was a bit of science coming out about it, and the dip in the river was the highlight of the day. The feedback was that was the experience, the tool that had the greatest shift in energy. And we felt it, we saw it. You see it in people's faces. They go in, stuck in their head, oh, this is going to be shit. And they come out, it's like you got a different person. There's smiles, there's like celebration, and it's just shaking out that energy. And it's like pressing a reset button. It's amazing how that cold water shock will, because you're so focused on just getting through that discomfort, because it's unpleasant, let's be honest. Even Wim Hof, when he gets into his ice bath, he's not enjoying that first few moments. And then that itty bitty shitty committee, that shuts up, and you're just focusing on getting through that cold water shock. And then what we've formed now, and we did on that day, is we sandwich our cold water dip with, we call it a warm in and a warm out, with the cold in the middle. And we do a bit of breath work and qigong and movement, which is qigong inspired, and that prepares the mind and body for the cold water shock. And then after the cold water, it's important to warm back up so it can be a pleasant experience. A lot of people do cold water and shiver all day, whereas it doesn't have to be that way. We do movements that warm you back up. So after that day, the feedback was, let's keep doing this. So we thought, well, let's do weekly dips. And this was just, COVID was starting to lock down and everything, but it really took off very quickly. And this was in Bath in the river. And I can remember a frosty, icy cold morning, and everyone was there barefoot on the ground, and we were doing this breath work and movement. And we had 30 guys turn up at one of our first dips. They'd saw us on social media and they were like, I don't know what's going on in the world, but I'm cool to this. And being amongst men is a vulnerable place as well. It's, you have to be courageous to go up and join these madmen that were doing this quite feminine practice, breathing, qigong movements, and then jumping in the river. And then from the off, we were like, this is a well-being space. This is not a rugby team. We listen more than we talk. And people got that. I think, we didn't even need to verbalize it too much. It was like, this is around looking after our mental health and creating community. And it's grown and grown since then, but we've realized that the cold water practice, that's an incredibly powerful tool, but the community has become the most important part of this.
Explain to me, what's the dynamic between everyone? So they're doing the practice of it. Are you having open, campfire sessions without the campfire, talking? How does it actually work?
Yeah, well, there's now a number of branches to what we do, and because of the scale that we're at now, like the Bath community has around 170, I think, on the WhatsApp group, but we've had many more that have come and gone and left and that sort of thing. But we can get up to 30 by the river each week. Sometimes it's 10, sometimes it's 30, and that's often 8 a.m. Sunday morning. We call it Sunday service. You can call it the church or the pub. It is what it is. Call it what you like. But we go through that ritual, we dip, and then we finish with a cup of tea. If you've got time, you can hang around and chat. And it's a space that's, it's open to other male conversation than we talk about the rugby, the football and so on, but it's a space for sharing troubles, challenges and wins and everything else in life. And the community connection, because we've got such diversity in the community, it's brilliant. But whatever labels you carry, what work you do, it doesn't matter. We're all half naked in this cold water, and it often takes a long while until people know what each other do for a living, which is
all the emperor's clothes have been taken off.
Exactly, yeah, and all the masks. So, and then what else has come about from? Yeah, literally. What else has come about from the dips is we've also done. We have weekly saunas. So most of the chapters, we're now in Bristol, we're in Brighton, and North London.
Oh wow! Yeah, I mean this rolled out globally. Basically, if you have a little system, pretty much, and it's it can easily scale.
Yeah, that would be the dream, and we're speaking soon to a number of other locations around the UK about a number of other chapters. So we're really excited by that. But yeah, it's about creating this community space for men that's not the pub or the sports game, which we all love, but we need other spaces as well. And
can you give me any examples of maybe any stories where you can say that you witnessed how impactful this has been? Because I think that we can all accept and understand the health benefits, etc., but like the overall, it's like this, cold water, anti-inflammatory, etc. But it's more than that. It's really, like you said, it's really all about the community, and these guys are coming because they want to experience it with other men. Otherwise, it's just having a shower by themselves.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's a big connection piece. It's connection to yourself, to local men, and the outside. We are nature, right? So to connect with that is a human need, and to notice what's going on through the seasons and really feel that, and have those moments where when we breathe, we're in silence. So a lot of men aren't doing these things or haven't ever done them. So it's a bit uncomfortable to start with, but it soon loosens up and just becomes, what we do is to warm up. But in terms of stories, yeah, there are many. And I've heard men say that we've saved their lives.
Wow.
And we've heard just last week, we had a day where we went on a walk, we had a dip, and we finished with breakfast. And one of the guys shared how his wife is just so grateful that he can come back in such a zen state after a couple of hours with us. And I think that's it. The ripples of this practice in these spaces is that relationships, families are happier, because when men are better, the world is better. And, we've been brought up in the world often by our fathers and grandfathers, they're recovered from world wars, and there's trauma often that hasn't been healed, that can be passed genetically or, energetically in the home.
Absolutely.
And to allow men to feel into who they really are and process their emotions. That's the healing space. So there's another example of a great guy who we're really fond of in the community, and I recall he was on the WhatsApp group for many months, and he openly declared that he thought we were all mad, what we were doing, and he suffered from extreme anxiety and depression. He was in a really bad place, an Aussie guy actually, and he eventually plucked up the courage to come and join us. I can remember seeing the shift in him, in his face and in his body. The transformation was phenomenal. The cold water in itself was an incredible tool for him. I think he was in there every day for many months, and he has this contagious laugh, this smile. He had this self-love that developed, that he really started looking after himself. He lost loads of weight. He really started getting into exercise, and it was a beautiful thing to witness. And he was just so grateful to have that community as well. So he'd be there. Funny enough, he didn't always like joining with our warm-ups and warm-outs and things, but he loved being amongst us, and that was life-changing. I think for him, he was able to feel joy again, feel connection, and he felt pretty hopeless. He'd lost a lot of hope. So that's the sort of difference it can make. And
Love it.
yeah, it's beautiful to hear that. And when we get feedback like that, because we're all volunteering currently, and
Sure.
yeah, we'd love to get proper funding one day and scale it, and we'd like to transition to charity and so on. But when you give so much of your time and your energy to create spaces like this, to hear those words makes it all worthwhile, and it's something we're immensely proud of.
Absolutely. That's amazing. Tim, you are doing phenomenal stuff for men, so I commend you and thank you. To finish off, I'd like to ask you 5 quick questions that I always ask my guests. So I'll start off with, who would you like to say sorry to, given the chance?
Yeah, this is it's a bit of a hard one on me, but I sort of feel like I'd like to say sorry to my mate Tom, who took his life. I just didn't see it coming, and I just wished I'd have seen that in him and just supported him. But yeah, it wasn't to be. But yeah, love that guy, and I miss him.
What are you proud of being or doing in your life?
I think it's got to be being one of the founders of IceBreakers. It's something that just gives me so much pride, and seeing the difference we're making to other men and their families and their teams and so on. It's just magical. I feel very lucky to be part of this journey.
You should be. When did you receive kindness while needing it most and expecting it least?
Well, I think it was when I went to Hong Kong. My good mate who I went to visit, Eddie, he invited me over to Hong Kong, and we stayed with his family, and I had an inkling that I wanted to work there, and we did the Hong Kong Sevens, we partied hard, and his family were kind enough to put me up and look after me, and we were in a right tangle. Had a lot of fun, but at the end of the week, his mum offered me a job in her wine business. Despite seeing me in those states and having to put up with me, she still saw some potential in me, and it was probably the greatest job I ever had, being employed by someone else. She was just a wonderful woman and very inspiring, and that career, that time in Hong Kong was just incredible, such an adventure. So grateful for her.
Oh, amazing. What did your mother or father teach you that you frequently remind yourself of?
I think it's my dad particularly was always very, very caring and kind. He'd always show up and mop up the mess and not moan, and he'd always show kindness and support. And I just always felt like he had my back, and I like to think I'm doing that for my kids. Most of the time they can be testing, but Yeah, that was something that stuck with me. I always felt like he had my back, and even now I'll call him up and say, "Dad, what am I going to do about this?" And yeah, that
He's your first call.
yeah, for a number of things. Maybe not the fire sharing type talks, but a lot of other things. Yeah, he's super kind.
Nice. And finally, what's your superpower?
I think it would probably be holding the space for people to talk. Feel like I can listen well and understand, see and hear people, and I think they feel comfortable to talk in my presence. So I feel very privileged that people share things with me they maybe wouldn't share with others, and I like to think that I can really help them in their life and with challenges, and hopefully it creates more and more ripples and progress for them in their lives.
Amazing. It sounds like you also really enjoy it.
Yeah, I love it. And Campwell is now evolving to a place where I've been doing it for 10 years now. So I'd like to do more coaching, more facilitation. I'm now a trained up coach and I love that work as well. So I'd like to bring that, particularly with men, getting them outside more and feeling more alive.
Tim Bowles, thank you so much. Congratulations on what you've achieved so far, and I hope to see it scale and grow to where you want to take it, because it certainly will have an impact on a lot of men out there. So thank you.
Thanks so much. Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you.
That's it for this episode of Men's Anonymous. Thank you for listening. For more information on the Men's Anonymous podcast, including resources discussed in the show, visit mensanonymous.com. Join us next time as host Daniel Weinberg provides a non-judgmental space for men to voice their innermost feelings and thoughts.